Sisters, this is your final call for Egypt. The ancient temples are stirring, the Valley of the Whales is whispering, and the Akashic codes are waiting to be unlocked. If your soul has been nudging you, then this is it. Time to pack your passport, your crystals, and your readiness for some serious 𝘁𝗶𝗀 upgrades. The doors are closing. 2 spots remain. So step into the mystery and walk the path of remembrance with us. Egypt awaits with initiation into the 𝘁𝗶𝗀 codes from December 11th to December 18th. Click the link below to claim your seat, and I'll see you between the paws of the Sphinx. Hello, sacred travel friends. Welcome to the womb sanctuary of Mama Gaia. We are traveling to Bali today with my magnificent guest, 𝘁𝗆 Ross, founder of Goddess Retreats, a lifelong pioneer in the industry combining travel, wellness, and women empowerment. Welcome, 𝘁𝗆.
Thank you so much, Julie. It's great to be here.
Wow, I love to have you. And, I'd love to start by just you sharing briefly with us your inspiration story for the Goddess Retreats.
Well, I think ultimately Goddess Retreats found me. It really was just a culmination of me following, I think, life's breadcrumbs, doing things that I love to do, and then realizing that I really wanted to share it. And in particular, like I'm a surfie, I'm a yogi, and and a life coach. And at the time when I started Goddess Retreats, it was Surf Goddess Retreats. So it is the first surf and yoga retreat for women in the world. And how that kind of came about was simply, I'd learned to surf. I'd moved to Bali in 1997 when I was 27 years old. And I learned to surf. And there were not many women in the water because it wasn't really a time where there was any surf schools. So it was really an oral tradition that was passed on. And it was usually passed, unless you're in Hawaii, really, if you're in Australia, it was passed on male to male, father to son, or maybe if you were lucky to have a brother or father, maybe to occasional girl. But we were really kind of out, kept out of that sphere for a really long time. And it was something that I'd always wanted to do. So when I got introduced to the sport, I just loved it so much. And then I was around the same time, just a couple of years after, I was introduced to yoga. And I think probably like a lot of people in your audience, I was always a spiritual seeker. I was born feeling like I was dropped on this beautiful planet without an instruction book and trying to figure out what it was all about and what was the purpose of life and how to live it as best I can. And so, I was really a seeker, and I was always seeking in different ways to, I guess, experience that, universal consciousness and coming into my own connection with, the universe and spirit. And interestingly, I really found it in surfing. It really brought me a lot of peace and joy and that sort of meditative state. And then same with yoga. And it just was through inspiration that, about 5 years after I learned, surfing, I was sitting there with a yoga teacher who I'd learned with, and she said, "Oh, why don't we do a yoga retreat and you can teach them to surf?" And I was thinking, yes, let's do that. And because I really wanted to share it, I really felt like it was a place of empowerment for women. And I felt really passionate about it. And so I didn't really have any qualifications to do it. And there wasn't any template to do it, that existed. But I just really felt called to offer this to women and to open up this space for women. And also, I was also a life coach at the time, and I was doing a lot of business coaching and life coaching. And I felt like it was such a wonderful way to embody a lot of the things that I wanted to share with women in life coaching, in spiritual practice, in a really just experiential way, in like through life, through learning to surf, through doing yoga, through traveling, of course, and especially like sharing Bali, because Bali is one of those, spiritual centers that connection to, universal consciousness and spirituality is just in everything around here. So it just was kind of a choiceless choice in a way. And I just remember, the minute my friend said that, why don't we do this? And I just got this kind of electric shock, and I knew I had to do it, and yeah. And so that's sort of how I ended up, just through, sheer passion, I guess, and inspiration.
I love how you're using the same language that I'd be using as well to like describe my path in a way. And, it's such a great testament of that. Yeah, actually, like we think we don't have qualifications, but it's really also more about this experience and sharing your own path, your own story, and the courage or having the courage to just like step into something that you feel that is even greater than you are. And by embodying that, like being the example and being the leader. So I love that. And I've never heard somebody talk about like surfing in terms of like a lineage, an oral tradition, and like a spiritual gateway. So that's the three things that I take from just what you said. It's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, surfing goes beautifully with yoga. I mean, it is a meditative sport, in a way, and I think it's more than a sport. I feel like you are literally dancing with nature. You are dancing and riding the energy of the ocean. And I mean, that is one of the most beautiful things of it. You are using, each wave is different, and you're using your energy to ride that wave and create this beautiful dance. And it's one of the few things that I had found in life, because I had, tried meditating, where I could literally just be in the present moment. You have to be there with the ocean, with what's happening. Otherwise, you're going to get wiped out. And that was the first thing that I noticed, is that when I'd come out of the ocean, my mind would be clear because I hadn't been worrying about the past or the future. I mean, you've got all that energy, from the ocean. And then also we know about the ions and the grounding, so many great things. And, I found it hugely empowering, when you ride a wave and you get up on the board, and it is quite physically challenging, you feel that empowerment within yourself. And I think also learning new sport or a new activity or anything is hugely empowering. And again, I just felt like these were all the things that I'd just love to share with women, and it was just, I still can't think of too many other things that really captures that magic.
Wow. So women, get on a surfboard.
I really do recommend it. You But find that thing, maybe some people get it from hiking, I know often that,
Yeah, that would be me.
yeah. Yeah, I know. I mean, it's inspiring, and being out in nature. I mean, I think we know now that, being in nature and communing with nature, we get that sense of oneness and connectivity with our planet, that really feeds into that, I don't know, that sense of harmony and
Yeah,
peace. So
yeah,
anything, I think, is wonderful. But this is, that I've discovered kind of like my love as well. I mean, I love scuba diving and being in the ocean. That's kind of my thing. But yeah, I think, yeah, anything that connects people to the planet, and that sense of being in a flow state, really can take us into that kind of like higher self, that meditative self.
yeah, yeah. So true.
Mm.
Why Bali? You touched a little bit on that already, but I love to ask, whenever like we weave in, like what is the sacred site medicine of Bali?
Yeah, I mean, I know, with your podcast, there are many beautiful sacred sites that have a lot of potency, on this planet. And Bali is definitely one of them. It's a vortex. It's a very big energy vortex. I mean, on a very like day-to-day level, I'd say, see, Bali is very unique. The Hinduism that's practiced here is just unique to Bali. It's different than the Hinduism that's practiced in India. And their spiritual practice is woven in daily by putting out, beautiful flower offerings morning, noon, and night. They have ceremonies based around the moon and for everything. There's temples everywhere and carvings and music, and it's all, there's a huge amount of artistry, and it's all devoted to the gods and goddesses. So, Bali is known as the island of the gods, so now the goddesses. So you can feel the magic here. And I think the way of life here also has a lot of beautiful spiritual lessons to teach us and the Balinese people. It is a place to slow down and to practice. These offerings are, offerings of gratitude and offerings to keep the balance. And the Balinese are such graceful people with such beautiful poise in their, emotions and community. So many it's so rich and alive here with so many beautiful lessons. And Bali itself as a sort of energetic vortex. One thing I can say that I've learned over the, I don't know, 20 odd years that I've lived here is that, it itself is like a magnifying glass. So whatever energy you're feeling here, you feel it intensely. So you can experience huge amounts of bliss, and you can have these wonderful aha moments and really like feel like it's absolutely heavenly and get those glimpses. And then also too, if you have things that you're working on here, it's like a catalyst where it will just like bring it up and bring it up raw.
Yeah.
And you either deal with it, and or maybe sometimes, you'll be peeling off the ceiling. It's a it's a very powerful place. It really is. And I've experienced that same sort of energy in places like Hawaii, and there's certain places in Australia, Byron, and but Bali is unique, obviously, with that with its own flavor and its own culture as well.
Mhm.
So, and it's just yeah, it was again.
Mm.
I also have a bit of a unique, growing up. I grew up. My parents were expats, and we moved to Indonesia when I was 5 years old. We
Okay.
lived in Southeast Asia, so I came to Bali first when I was 5, and so coming back, I came back as an adult and really felt like I had come home. There's just, there is something about Bali that, has always called me. And the Balinese believe in reincarnation. And I truly believe that at one point, this is my home. I know it feels like home.
Beautiful. While you were speaking, I feel like the water and the fire and like the seismic volcanic activity is
Oh,
very
yeah.
present with like, yeah, the emotions that you were that you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Beautiful. But I like more than, so having Bali as that kind of like basic setting to set the stage and the energy, I feel I want to go a little bit into also the industry of travel, because you have been such a forerunner in a way. And I would like to explore with you if there is anything that you are seeing or have seen as a need, especially within women that like to seek out experiences that right now hasn't necessarily been met yet. Hey, everybody, if you are enjoying the show, then you would do me the biggest favor in clicking the subscribe button and engaging with my content so I can continue to deliver these beautiful conversations to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I think so. One of the biggest changes that I've seen over the 20 years is obviously retreats were considered something a bit more like fringe. They weren't really mainstream at the time. So moving from surfing, we've gone into more wellness and healing, things like Ayurveda, acupuncture, and now even more into, people being open to doing different traditions like water healing. We've got quantum healing, different, like, so people are more open to what I would have considered back 20 years ago. We considered sort of like, I'd say like more, I don't know what the word fringe or not mainstream, which is great because these are all the things that I loved to explore for myself, to help sort of get those realizations, to start to change my consciousness. And also, I think even within things like yoga, people are now starting to explore, moving beyond just doing the poses and the asanas. And they're starting to look at things like pranayama, like kundalini, looking at sound baths. So I think that's been a big thing for on goddess retreats, is that the idea of our retreat is to offer the opportunity for women to come and create their own program and really explore the different things that inspire them or they feel might connect and resonate with them. I think that's the most important thing, is to understand within the wellness and spiritual travel is that it's not a one size fits all thing. And it really is, just as we're all unique, and I think we all have our own unique paths within looking for retreats, it's really such a individual choice of finding something that really resonates with you. So I would say the biggest change, again, that I've also seen is people really starting to embrace that idea of intentional travel.
Mm-hmm.
And, moving beyond, regular travel and understanding, for me, retreats are almost like what we're talking about, like a meditation, where you're bringing yourself into a rarefied atmosphere where you can gain inspiration, get connected to that higher self, and then bring it back down to incorporate it into your day-to-day life. So I think that the exploration of all the different things you can do is still very wide open. And I feel like I still feel like, we offer a lot, but I think that, like I offer on your channel, there's so many women offering different ways to tap into that, higher self, the divine feminine, to tap into sacred sites. I think it's just, I don't know. I think it's an endless journey. I know for me, I feel like, I've been doing this now for myself personally for I don't know, close to 35, 40 years, and then doing it as a business for, 25. And I still know for myself, there's places I want to go. There's, experiences that I want to experience. So I don't know if I can, name anyone, any one thing, but I just know that it's wide open, really. And it's really, I think it's really about, if people are interested in looking for places or if they're looking to put on retreats, I would say the best retreats that you can put on is something that you are, passionate about and that you want to share with others. But ultimately, that's it. For me, there's no other reason to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, fully agree. I mean, you have to be passionate. You have to be your biggest fan in order to put things out there. Also, because it's my experience, that the entrepreneurial journey is not always an easy one. So it's not the easy path, especially if you weave it in with spirituality. So you really have to believe in what you do.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's been there's been many ups and downs in the path of leading retreats, and here, and it's not easy, and we've also done it in other countries. But yeah, ultimately, it's really about just sharing. For me, it's been about creating the space where women can come in and really go into embodying the experience. I think that's really important as well. And that they can then, so with surfing, it was really about empowerment, even just traveling alone. A lot of our guests travel alone because and I think it's a wonderful thing to do. I think retreats are wonderful to do on your own because there's very few opportunities in day-to-day life where you can take time to really just focus inward on yourself. So, on the retreat, they're able to do that. Like I said, they're able to, we really encourage them to be able to try what we call following your bliss, whether it's, trying Ayurveda or going for a hike up the volcano to see the sunrise over Bali at, in the morning. There's lots of different ways that really ignite, people and spark their spirit, and they take home new perspectives. And I think another thing that's really wonderful, which I really love when I travel and obviously on the retreats, is having all women together.
Mm.
Because again, particularly now as, technology's moved along a lot in 20 years, is that getting women together in real life, and women who are of all different ages and have gone all through, different life circumstances. And whether you're an entrepreneur or just,
Yeah.
life is going to throw you challenges. And I think that's one of the beautiful things of bringing people together and women, is that they start to share about their life experiences. And we can learn so much from each other. First of all, I think it's really important. One of the most beautiful gifts is that we realize that, life is challenging. And when we face challenges, well, in our lives, and especially if you're on a spiritual path, we don't talk about this a lot, but if you choose to walk a spiritual path, your life might be extra challenging, because you're asking to bring up, you're going to go into the forest that's filled with shadows, and, maybe a few, scary monsters that you're going to deal with. That is part of the spiritual path. And when we can share our stories and our life stories with each other, we can understand that, going through challenges is not failure. That is part of the journey. And we can share our successes and our, completion of those challenges and lessons. And, we can pass it on to, women who might be just starting or might have something similar. And I often find, and this is the beautiful thing, and why I'm still, as passionate about doing goddess retreats as I was 20 years ago, is because I find that the right women come on the right week.
Mm. Yes.
They
Yes.
they have
I know what you mean.
very weirdly similar stories, like very specific. And I know that that source consciousness has decided, oh, I'm going to put you guys all together. There's lessons to be learned.
Yeah.
And they, as much as we guide the retreats, our guests also become guides for each other and sharers of wisdom, and that that's the magic. And I know that a big part of doing this is about holding space for that to happen.
So much. So take us a little bit into these. It's four, right? Immersive, unique goddess experience that you have curated. What's the alchemy that women can experience when immersing in these?
We have two properties. We have one on the coast, which is the original one, and then we have one up in Ubud that we've been running now for about 4 years. And that's a new one. It's very special. We've got our own temple on the property. Got
Oh,
a beautiful
wow.
permaculture farm that goes down this beautiful ravine with a lovely yogashala on it. And it's really deep in the heart of Bali, very similar to the background that you've got there, And we offer quite a few different programs. So we obviously still have surf, and we have fitness and Pilates, which is, using activity and movement you can women come for a lot of different reasons. Sometimes they come for rejuvenation. They're, burnt out, and they want, or they just want to have a new experience to kind of like ignite them. Then we have wellness and healing goddess. And those are focused more on like wellness, like a wellness program where they can, say, choose from, detoxifying treatments, Balinese healers, you know, everything from tarot card reading, quantum healing, super coherence resonance, to even traditional. We like to focus a lot on traditional Balinese healing techniques. So we have 𝘵𝗵𝘁, which is like a water for purification ceremony. And we also, can go to a lot of the holy springs temples. So there's a lot of different choices that people can make. So I find that when women are going on retreat, they do come for a lot of different reasons, and some of it usually it happens when they're in a point of transition around like significant birthdays or significant changes in their lives, such as like changing jobs or changing, relationships and all those things. And sometimes, I think all our guests, one of the things that is very common is that all of them are women who want to continue to progress towards their highest self.
Yeah.
They're not, I mean, you have to want to do that to want to come on a retreat because it's sort of baked into the DNA of it, really. So we have all these different, so how it kind of works is that they run all at the same time. So you've got a group of women and we do a lot of activities together. Obviously, meals, our yoga, we have intention setting ceremonies, blessings, and workshops. And then people who've chosen to do their different activities can go off and do their own individual ones, either by themselves or with a couple of other ones. So, and then they come back together. So it really, I think one of those that really works for us in how we do it because it allows for women to be able to enter in at whatever level they want to come at. Some women, are just entering into this pathway. And I've always said that, Goddess Retreats is kind of like that. It's the retreat that is one when you want to just come in and explore all the different things there. So a lot of them might be their first sound bath, might be their first time having, energy healing. So it's all these things. So, and then there's other ones, who really are like, okay, I want to go in and really experience deep healing, and we're able to do that with some of the beautiful healers and that we work with. And all of it, I would say, and all of it comes out of really all the things that I've experienced on my journey. So I've, met a healer and I've gone, oh, this is amazing. I want to share this. Or,
Mm-hmm.
an actress and I'm like, you're amazing. Can you come? It's really about sharing all the different tools to we can, use and experience along the journey.
I agree. Wow, I love it. I'm just like, in my head, I'm already like, when can I come?
That's great. Anytime.
Anytime. I'm gonna check back with my family. So you already mentioned also, that like deep engagement with the local community. I'm interested to learn a little bit more about that. How do you, just like weave that together? Also, I want to say almost like local community respect or responsibility and also sustainability in the experiences that you curate.
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, obviously it was really just about sharing the Balinese culture and celebrating Bali. It was just it's a perfect place for a retreat. And with our team, as we grew, they've become family. A lot of our team members have worked with us for decades. So, our longest one has been from day one, So, and how that works, I guess, is like being part of Bali. We obviously work with all Balinese, and then particularly, in Seminyak and then in Ubud. In Ubud, because we have these beautiful rice paddies around us, and that it's really been, and because Bali, has been getting modernized like a lot, everything around the planet is really trying to protect and that first of all that natural landscape, but also preserve a lot of the traditions. So what we do is we focus on working with local guides who share different landscapes and experiences, taking women off the beaten track away into more remote temples and areas like that. We also have our lovely chef, he's really loves using our permaculture garden. So we, take women out there, teach them about that, as well as all the very sort of traditional herbs and vegetables and ways of cooking. And then we also have workshops on the offering making. And then again, with, Yeah. And then again with the spiritual ceremonies. So we call 𝘁𝗵𝗶𝘀 purifications, and then also Balinese healing, which was made very famous on Eat, Pray, Love, But when I first moved here, that is what you did. You would line up and wait at a local healer, and they would, do this. It's not in the movie, but they would do this crazy, like, muscle and bone and tendon manipulation, and then read your palm and do your things, and then, give you some herbs and, papaya leaves and send you off. And we would just join the regular Balinese to do that, and you'd all be waiting in a row to go and see this healer. So, we incorporate that onto our retreat. So you can get to experience these traditional, like, wisdoms. And I mean, they're magical. Like our Papa Gus, who's been with us, I don't know, for 15 years now. I love coming out and asking our guests, like, what did he say to you? Because he is a true healer. He'll, one lady will be like, oh, he just told me I'm taking too much magnesium, and it's so weird because I just started taking all this magnesium before I came on the trip. Like, he is on it, and
Wow.
I've heard so many different things like that. He's like, oh, he went straight to this area of my body that, I was like, oh, your hip's bad. And it's like, yeah, I had a hip replacement the other, like, it's amazing. And because these are wisdom keepers, and it's my honor to be able to make, to bring these people together, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Mhm.
Can you share a moment or like a conversation with a Balinese local that shifted your personal view on the world?
Oh, just one.
Go for it as much as you want to share.
Uh, I think, it's something, that connectedness to a sense of place, particularly I think about when one of our lovely guides, he's a priest in training, and he leads our groups in their water purification, and they would tell us the stories, the Hindu stories about how this holy spring was made. And it was, there was some guy had given a poison to one of the other gods, and this guy stuck a rod in the ground, and this beautiful holy spring came out of it that would be an antidote to the poison. And he was really explaining it and made it sort of clear how, the poison is the poison in our minds, and the clearing of it is like this intention of washing it over. So understanding, for me, I guess it is a sense of ritual coming from a place, where ritual is there and it's practiced regularly like that. It just brought so much understanding. So when we do the cleansing, I'm going to cleanse my mind from, resentment. I'm going to cleanse the poison of envy. I'm going to cleanse the poison of anger from myself, and creating that intention. And it's so beautiful to be able to do it in a space, like I said, that everybody's doing it. All the Balinese are doing it. As I said before, when I was growing up, and, I'm sure you've experienced it, that there really has been a radical shift in the last 20 odd years for all these sort of spiritual, kind of spiritual philosophies, yoga, everything to be sort of being started to be accepted and understood. Because before, if you were talking about these things, people would be like, what, But but to have it in Bali, where you are going with hundreds of other Balinese, and we're all doing the prayer, and we're all sending our gratitude up, and it's just a part of life. I think that sense of ritual and understanding the sacredness, that it's there every moment of the day, and I think that's the hope, the one thing that I would love for women to take away. But, a lot of people say, oh, when you leave the retreat, it's hard to take the retreat with you. And yes, but hopefully we can understand that even in our day-to-day lives, we create the intention, can create these moments of ritual and and reconnect with the divine, because it's with us all the time. Whether you're in New York or Bali, you're still a divine being. You're still a goddess, and it's like, how can I express that? And how can I live from a place of being aware that at all times I'm trying to express my highest self in everything I do? Whether I'm cutting somebody's hair, am I making them feel good? Am I showing my highest self, in the in the line in the supermarket, as well as when I'm in the line to go and get blessed by the priest? Like that's what I really, that's why I called it Goddess Retreats, because it is like, I really believe that, every person, but specifically addressing women, is that goddess is within us already. You know, we all have a divine purpose, and it can look lots of different ways, but it's meant to be shared in the mundane world. We're meant to take those highest qualities and share it around us. And we can turn every space into like a heavenly harmonic space. And it's our job to do it. Like, that's our, not
It's our
job, but it's
job,
our purpose.
100%.
It's our higher purpose, like, to bring it into every interaction.
Yeah. I love that you're saying that because, I talk so much about integration and how we can bring this very tangibly down in the day to day. Because that's also what I feel like is what the priestessing is about. And so many women, they crave for what you just described with being in these flowy robes, floating from temple to temple all the time, where what's actually happening is that there is situations where they maybe are mothering, or kind of literally death douulaing their mother into the other world, or where there is kids, or where there is other stuff happening in a corporate job. But how can we bring this same awareness and higher consciousness into these exact moments that are in front of us, and still have the same devotion?
Yeah.
So what's your tip for an easeful to make the post-retreat crash more ease and graceful?
Well, I have found the best way to do that is to set aside, first of all, some time every morning to either, you have to reconnect back in, because that sense of peace and harmony that we sort of create in those atmospheres is like finding, the first thing would be reading something that puts us in that frame of mind, journaling. There's lots of those sorts of things to take along the way, rather than sort of getting on the news or doom scrolling when we wake up. It's like we create the atmosphere, and maybe it is a simple ritual of, making your cup of tea or your matcha or coffee, lighting incense, just taking a moment and then making the decision okay. And I love reading because it, for me, it was, my whole spiritual path has been about relearning and re-understanding and remembering things. And I, have terminal forgetfulness. So it's like finding some really good books that remind me of, of these qualities that I'm cultivating. And, if you can have some time to meditate, that's great. And then I find that's a great way to start the day, because at least it sets me off in that tone, so that as soon as I sort of go out in the day, and then now I have constant little practices that I do, if I'm, get cut off on the, on the road, I'll be, I have a few sayings okay, my current one is joy and freedom, and it's just like a reset. I'm like, okay, because I've been doing it a long time, but it's just staying in that state. And then I just find when I'm in that state, I'm more creative. And when I'm in a state of being conscious about what it is I'm bringing to the situation, not what the situation's bringing to me, when I see myself as my job is to respond as my highest self in that situation, it's a totally different energy than wondering what the world's giving me. So in work, it's like, what can we bring? How can we bring more harmony to this? How can we be more understanding? And then what I found is, with that energy, the world the world understands that that energy is happening, and the universe then brings, us situations and opportunities and people, and it becomes meaningful. I really, and I think that's the sense of divine that I was always looking for in day-to-day life. Rather than it just being a random conversation with somebody, I can see, like the purpose of that conversation, and maybe they're teaching me something, maybe I'm teaching them something, and everything becomes more meaningful. I think, and that's I think ultimately for me, that was what I was, looking for all those years ago. It's like, what is the purpose of life? Well, the purpose of life, I don't is to live it, but also it's to create peace and harmony. And it's like, I am that one who's going to do it, as much as I can. I love that saying, 𝘆𝗨𝗃𝗃 samastā sukhiño bhavantu. It's like, may my life be of service of creating, freedom and happiness for all and for myself, and every action that I do, may I be a part of that creation. So, that's for me, that's the aim. And it's fun, and life becomes kind of fun when
It does. So
it does.
magical and so much fun.
It is. It's more fun, rather than like, oh, what's happening now? You're like, okay, well, what are we doing now? How can I, what? Because life brings you really interesting things and really fun opportunities, and also really fun challenges. And it becomes like this beautiful, like just like surfing, this beautiful dance. Where you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm going to improv. I'm improving. Like
It all comes back to surfing.
kind of does, because it's like that. It's like, oh, what are we doing here? Oh, I see. We're working on anger and forgiveness right now. Okay, you can see the greater story. This 3,000, foot view of things, rather than it being like, so in your face. Things have really deep meaning, and it becomes very poignant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately we are the tuning forks to like really radiate that vibration that we want to see out. So it also
Yeah.
comes back to us.
It is, and it's, and that, I mean, that I guess is probably one of the, it's one of the most beautiful things, and probably one of the, more selfish things about the retreats that I love. I love watching people, and especially our guests, just, they can arrive, they can sometimes be in quite stressful states, and, their energy's quite, oh, and then by the end of the week, they are literally glowing, and people's whole, you know, like, the way they look changes, and it's not just the Bali tan. I mean, they really are radiating, their faces are just more relaxed, they're laughing, and I think, one of the big things too is really about, it's a lot of talk about self-love these days, but I think part of that is really understanding yourself and accepting yourself, and understanding, what is it that I truly value, and what is kinda like, what is the things that I wanna express, and what is my purpose of what I'm here to share? Some women have beautiful motherly energy, other ones are, fiery and wise. We all have these different traits to bring. And I think when we can really own our own expression of it, and the form that we've come in to do, I think that that's wonderfully empowering, to have that self-acceptance. And I think it's so important for women, because I think, I think this goes back to why I wanted to start this retreat for women. Was, growing up again, I was sort of an outlier. Was raised, traveling the world and doing different things, but I also was raised in a way that I was never told I couldn't do anything because I was a woman. And so it shocked me,
Mm.
shocked me to my core. As I grew up, I realized that, you know, you can't do that. You're a woman. Oh, you're not as good as it, because sexism is, especially back then, was quite real. And I was having none of it. So I really want women to just know, like, you can do whatever you want. The world is going to have its, our families are going to have their say, the social media is going to have their say, all these things are going to say. But ultimately, again, we can really make the choice, like, I'm just going to, you know, come from the inside out. What is true to me? What's important to me? How do I want to express myself? I mean, I'm 55 now, and I still go on the surf, and I get like looks of like, what? What? She and I'm like, you know what? I'm still gonna surf. I
And
don't need to
hopefully
be an
25
outfit.
years longer from now on. Yes.
Yeah. Well, they're usually quite surprised when I can actually they're like, "Oh, you can surf?" And I'm like, "Yeah, because I've been doing it for a long time." It wasn't, like again, it's, like, funny to, come I feel like in some ways it's really interesting at this age to have come back full circle to, like, before then it was like women didn't surf, and now it's like women at this age don't surf. And I'm like, "Well, I'm gonna bust that one open too." You know? And I want women to do that in wherever they are. It's like, don't limit yourself. If it's something that's really truly calling to you, it is your purpose to go and try and do.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that empowering statement. Yes. So I'm curious, what's your take on a retreat versus pilgrimage?
Oh, pilgrimage. So I know that what is what would you say is pilgrimage for you?
So, the reason why I'm asking is because what I've been seeing is that, and personally, I refrain a little bit from the expression of retreat because
Mm.
I see that's in many ways it's been used very inflationary,
Oh,
I want to say. So obviously, I mean, you've been so long in the industry and a pioneer back then, and I can feel a very different vibration. But also, I feel that what we spoke about earlier, the the texture of what is, I mean, and I'm not talking only about me here right now, but like what is being offered and what is being asked from women who truly, truly seek out these intentional experiences is very different than going to an experience where you basically like still check off a schedule and like follow a certain lining. And to me, the word pilgrimage, and obviously it's something that also might be very have a religious connotation, but
mm,
ultimately to me, the way that I see it is that it's this outer journey as 100% a reflection, a sacred mirror to what is actually happening in the inside. And that's a lot of the times like when I lead or guide or steward people and the land, it's really that reciprocity of events that happens even before and after that you decide to go on a trip. So I'd just be curious to hear your take on that.
yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that because you're very right. Like the word retreat has lost a lot of its original meaning. Because originally, if you would say retreat and pilgrimage, I'd say they're very closely entwined. But retreat now is used very loosely for any, like a wellness retreat. Is really like I've seen wellness retreats on, and I'm like, and they're, eating KFC and drinking. Don't know if it's quite a
Okay.
retreat, but like it's very loose these days. It's like a holiday. But anyway, so when I use the term retreat, I take it back to when I would go on retreat. It was like you would go off and you'd meditate at 4:30 a.m. I mean, we're not that what I call like a hardcore original spiritual retreat, but we still have that intention. So pilgrimage for me, I always think of obviously the Paulo Coelho book, The Pilgrimage, and like where you're kind of go.
Mm,
It is a
mhm,
journey, and in that way, a retreat is very similar. I guess for me, I always kind of equate a pilgrimage with a you're going to a particular location.
mhm.
That might be the only slightly different one. So I guess in a way for us, if people were wanting to really experience Bali in that way, it could be a pilgrimage. But in the same way as and my understanding of pilgrimage, it is a journey. But I really try to explain that, and we talk a lot about that, about educating our guests when they come on a retreat, because one of the biggest challenges is that because the term retreat has been kind of neutered in such a way that they don't understand that they are going on a deep emotional journey. And one of the first things we say at orientation is like, you're going to have a wonderful week, but you're also going to go through some emotional highs and lows as things come up, because it surprises a lot of people and they freak out,
Yeah.
and if you don't really understand that this is what a retreat does, this is what a pilgrimage does, is that you are going to bring up the light and you are going to bring up your shadows. And ultimately with these, you come out the other side, kind of transformed in one way or another. Yeah, I think pilgrimage definitely, still has that potency of what you're actually doing at work. And unfortunately, retreat doesn't, but we really try to remind our guests this is what you're going to do. Even the ones who are sort of coming for kind of a lighter retreat, they're going to have meaningful conversations. It's going to, because we all have that within ourselves as part of our life journey.
Yeah.
These things, these emotions, these experiences that are, we're working our way through, and it's unavoidable. So, I mean, I think for me, if I ever had the biggest message I would give for anybody who is, on the spiritual path, is that definitely in this day and age, spirituality has been made very sexy, and it's a bit like, oh, we're going to go on a spa retreat, and it'll just be, once I'll manifest, it'll be fun, and and then, whoa, when you are going through the spiritual alchemy of your journey in life, it is an alchemy, and you have to be kind of everything gets reduced down, and then, well, no, it's wonderful, but it's also can be terrifying, and I think people need to be warned,
Yeah.
and it's normal.
Red flag.
Nobody warned me, and I can tell you how many times I was like, oh my God, did I, I wanted this, but you have to be very courageous, and you have to want, to do this. And that's part of the retreat, is you're going to get the highs. You've got to be able to confront the things that might hold you back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really challenging, and but that's part of the journey of the retreat. And again, with surfing, it's like, to ride those waves, you've got to get slammed down a few times and feel a bit terrified, confront your fear and go, I'm gonna do it again, and I'm gonna get up, and then you ride, and it's like, ah. So you can just see, the surfing is it's just a great physical metaphor of the path, it's
Yeah, you definitely gave us a very new perspective on surfing.
It's true, and it teaches me that every day. And one of my biggest mantras sitting out there is, I have infinite patience. You have to wait for. There's so many great lessons.
Thanks.
So, yeah. So that's why ultimately, initially when I started doing it, I was like, man, this is just the journey, and this has so many beautiful things to teach, So.
Wow. So what is next for you on your personal spiritual involvement journey?
I feel like in some ways where I am now, I feel really grateful, is that I've done a lot of journeying around, and I feel like I'm coming to the place of contentment, and really.
So beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's more lessons to come, but I feel like I'm hitting a place of contentment. And it's that thing of where they say, you go around and you travel and you realize the place where you started from is perfect. I'm kind of there, and I'm loving that. you know and there's still more projects to do and things like that. One of the things that we are talking about now is with my ex-husband, who I'm still very good friends with and business partners with. We're talking about now might be a time to start introducing retreats to men.
Yes, please do that. Please do that.
Yes.
I know so many women who are going to send their husbands.
Yeah. So we want to do that in a way that honors men. Obviously,
Yes.
I was able to create goddess retreats because I obviously know women intimately. It's everything that I felt like I needed, and we're doing that. So I think that that's something that might be coming up in 2026.
Oh,
It is something that's
amazing.
going to be coming up in 2026. We're just really putting a lot of thought in how we want to do this to sort of, create a whole man, not too alpha, not too, just, one that's really grounded, just like, how I kind of envision goddesses is that they're, you're connected to the divine, but also really
Yeah.
grounded. And how can, what does that mean? And so we're kind of exploring that. And I think that that's one of the big things, just as all these sort of, like say more, alternative and holistic therapies have, taken their time to become part of the, mainstream conversation. Women have always led the way in, retreats and yoga and exploring spirituality and workshops. But now I think men are really crying out for it. So we want to give them a really good, solid, you know, grounded way to process everything they're processing
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah. Safe space. Yes.
Yeah.
Please keep us posted. And I do want
Sure.
you and your business partner, ex-husband, back for that one, because I know that in my audience there is a lot of men as well. They are quiet, but I know you're there. So
Yeah, well, for
yes,
sure. We'd love to do that. Yeah.
that would be really amazing. Well, 𝘁𝘆cie, is there any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience?
I would just say, just yeah, no, not really. I just would say what I said before is, just find ways to bring that divine and that spirit into your life. It's available to you every moment of every day, wherever you are. If your voice is saying like, I can't do it here, that's not true. That's a place where it needs it the most, and beautiful experiences like going on retreat in Bali or, going to sacred sites, that's where we pick up that, where it's where we get our energy refresh. We're the tuning rods, we're the batteries, take it back to where you are and start to create it out. And if you want to create something like this, it's like really ask yourself, like everything that I do really just came out of like what I wanted to experience. So it's like if something you're looking for, other people are usually looking for it too. And it's like, how can I best create that and be of service and give it, with as much integrity as possible.
I feel my heart is so full right now. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, beautiful conversation that I feel just the energy of Bali was holding that so beautifully, like the Great Mother. And yeah, everything that you brought and the energy of that sanctuary brought. Thank you so much for being on here and sharing all that beautiful goddess wisdom with us.
Oh, it's beautiful sharing your energy.
Where can people find you and learn more about the goddess retreats?
You can find us at goddessretreats.com or Goddess Retreats on Instagram. Easy.
Beautiful. So we're going to be putting all the links in the show notes. Yeah, please check them out. I will for sure. It's been a very long time that I've been to Bali, so I feel her
Oh,
calling me back. So
okay. Well, and I've been looking at yours and I'm thinking, I want to go where you're going, like I saw you were doing your trip to, with Mary Magdalene, and I mean, it's beautiful. It's been a long time since I've been back in those areas too.
who knows when paths cross.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in and listening to this episode. We hope that there was a lot of pearls of wisdom for you to integrate into your very own path and day. And as always, stay curious and continue to escape the ordinary. We'll see you next time.